Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and call a meeting to order for the Pool and Recreation Center Committee on February 8th at 6 p.m. All right, let's go ahead and start with roll call. Matt Sam.
Here.
Chris Evans. Sean Miller. Corey Gibson. Danny Park. Roger Stewart. Here. Andy Quant. Tina Payne.
Here.
Janet O'Donnell.
Here.
Blake Penson. Here. Neil Owens. Here. Brent Clark, I'm here. And Mike McCormick / Richard Rands. Yep. All right. Let's go ahead and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, when you sent out the agenda, did think our new member was going to join us, but and so the mayor and council did approve last night. Mr. Richard Ranzow stepped down from the board as there's other committees he's going to serve on within the school district, and so he did decide to step down from this committee, and Mr. Mike McCormick is going to be stepping in for his place as a representative from USD 262. And so they had a visioning meeting tonight that overlapped. And so hopefully they'll be with us next time. Moving right along to, oh, I jumped over. Sorry, let's go ahead and approve the agenda first.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Stam, seconded by Blake. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Oh, it was Roger.
That's why he's giggling.
Sorry, Roger. There you go.
No,
We'll make
it doesn't really matter, honestly.
All right, moving right along to item number 6, updated sales tax revenues. As you see, we do have now the January collection that totaled $70,840.14, which to date brings it to $1,389,214.64. So coming in nicely. Any questions on that? All right. Moving right along into item number 7A. SJCF updates. This will include the community survey results, sun study results. I know that's really exciting. Looking at various materials for the new building, Lions Park project, and then also partnering with Todd and his folks and Jake on some of the Lions Park stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and turn over the computer to them. Who's taking it first?
Gary's going to talk first. Like Gary's on the computer. While he's grabbing it, I would say, I'm not sure how many
They're all
people
tagged on
actually
here.
were involved in or were part of the school distribution
Thank you, Todd.
email, but I think someone had said 5,000 or 6,000. So I was pretty excited. We almost hit 1,000 responses on our survey, which I would say that's higher than a normal response on survey solicitation. Good thing about that in our mind is that is a large enough number to give us really quantitative results, input, feedback, et cetera. So pretty excited about that. So as we look through this, I kind of keep that in the back of your mind. 960 was the actual responses we got total. Kind of flip through here a little bit. First slide, we asked them how many members in their household, and in general, bulk of them were somewhere between 2 and 5. So basically, parents with 1 to 3 children was kind of the bulk. Probably about 80% of the respondents fell in that category. And so as you listen to the answers or look at them, that will become apparent with a lot of the comments. There were comments that you could tell were coming from some of the senior citizens and stuff as well. So it wasn't exclusive. Age ranges, no surprise that most of those were adult. I was a little surprised, and about half of those respondents had, someone from 5 to 12 or 13 to 18. A little surprised. I was kind of expecting a little more in the retired than we got. Use it as often. Still enough there. I mean, if that's 9%, that's almost 90 retirees.
Some of
that
us don't
did the
call ourselves
survey.
retired.
Question 3, ranking the features that the members of your household would utilize. Obviously, the indoor pool was the number one, the hot item. This was out of 6 items, so 4.52 versus the fitness at 4.09 ranking. Averaged each other out a little bit, but you can see indoor track, fitness machines, and running track were the top 3. Gym wasn't too far behind. And then there was a bit of a drop to studio and child center. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a later question as well. How often would you utilize the child center? I was a little surprised, but I don't know why. Almost 70% said never. 17% said once a week, and only 5% of those said like daily. So it's probably not as predominant as one would think when you're thinking about child center. I had someone in my office that lives as a Park City resident, but in the school district. So they got the survey and filled it out, made the comment that in their case, a child care would be nice, but I said, well, I'm not sure that's a mission of the rec commission. So we had an interesting conversation right there, one-on-one. And I think there's probably many of those kind of conversations that can happen related to at the child center. We'll have a couple other comments about it as well. How often do you utilize the recreation center? Predominantly weekly or daily, mostly weekly, but almost a third or so they use it daily. So then we get into some of the design questions, and the first one was, in reviewing the current plan, do you see the need for additional types of spaces or amenities? In other words, is there something missing from the plan? And I think you need to keep in mind, 73% said, no, you're good. But there were 27%. So that 27% were asked, what's missing? And put these in percentages because the numbers seem substantial, but then you look at it as a percentage, it's not near as much. But and I think the first one's pretty legitimate, more studios. And I would agree that if you're going to have a studio program, probably 2 to 3 is ideal to start with. So that was a very legitimate comment. There was, go ahead.
Oh, just something I was going to mention because I saw that just so people are wondering. We're also going to continue to use our facility now for an additional studio
And
for now.
I don't think we said that in the survey information or the narrative. So some of these comments you have to kind of look at.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I understand, but we're going to have studios elsewhere. So, yeah, exactly. And that comes up on the basketball courts too. I'll mention that later. Sauna, hot tub, steam room. I combined those. So there were 23 people that commented on that.
And a sauna.
So that's something that's in some people's minds anyway. The third highest was more basketball courts. And the reality was the diagram that we showed for basketball courts only showed 1 court.
No.
The reality is we're planning on 2 cross courts. So that was a little misinformation in terms of what they saw in the diagram versus what we were attending.
And that's with 6 actual hoops. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, when you
there
think
were some
about
comments that said,
6
make sure you have
hoops.
6 hoops.
Yeah, then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, well,
So I think the plan we have tonight shows them.
Yes, the plan tonight shows all 6 hoops.
Yeah. And then party rooms came up. Well, kind of party room, game room, meeting rooms, no matter. You could probably multi-use a lot of those, but there was a number of comments about that. There was a fair number of comments about having a little more fitness weight space. Obviously, we know that we're planning on that being able to grow. So that's not that we're just ignoring that, but it does come down to dollars and economics at some point.
at some point it does.
So, and then of course, the other one that was close to that was more lanes for the pool. That's a discussion that has a lot of economics. The downside of that discussion is you don't build 2 lanes later. So ever think about having 8, now's the time to do it. So, but it's interesting. I could tell from some of the comments they were coming directly from swim team people based on the comment. And most of them seemed to say, we need that 25 meters and we need 6 lanes. There were just a few comments about going to 8 lanes. What's that?
You want to say something about 8 lanes or?
Yeah, like just in my experience, like what we're looking at, the 8 lanes would probably be a little bit too much. We would be impacting too much of the rec side of the pool with the space.
Microphone.
Yeah, you'd have,
You all pass down the microphone. Sorry. Sorry about that, Brian.
You're good. I just realized, so I mean, 8 lanes would be an amazing competition pool if that was just going to be a competition pool. From our experience and looking at the plans, if we'd expand that to an 8-lane system, then we would probably have to remove the rec pool and it would become just a programmable competition pool with 8 lanes. So while I see there's a one of that for the swim team side of things, and it is an option for some programming, it would definitely change the structure and how you'd be using the pool for the rest of the community. It would barely become more just for your competitions.
then you can see I tried to cut it off at about 3 comments as all this off here thinking that some of those singles you probably would not want to hear. And some of them were not a lot of them were just like, yeah, I think this is a good idea. Or this confirming some of the things we were doing.
Oh, the one that I, was there racquetball?
Oh, there was 1 or 2 comments related to that, but it wasn't a great number again. Yeah. And I can almost bet that Blake would tell you the economics of racquetball is really poor in terms of the amount of square footage to the number of people you can satisfy with it. Yeah. We also had people that went indoor tennis.
Yep.
Oh, the tennis tables?
No,
Like
tennis courts.
Oh, actual tennis
Yeah.
courts, not just table tennis.
No,
No,
tennis
indoor
courts,
tennis.
Okay.
full soccer fields.
Of course, there was a number that wanted more pool deck seating. So that's always a challenge, is how much seating do you provide? I thought those were good comments. I thought that for the most part, I was really impressed with the perceptiveness and the feedback we got. So I don't think there was too many comments that you could ignore there. They seemed pretty important. Question 8, in the current plan, is there arrangement changes? So this would be relationship spaces. And 85% said, no, I think the layout looks good, 15%. And there wasn't near as many comments in this one when we gave them a chance to suggest, but the ones that stood out that had enough duplication to probably at least legitimize their comment was moving the studios closer to the gym. There was a lot of people that didn't like the studio being right by the front door if they're doing yoga and people looking at them, that type of thing. So that was one of the comments. Another one all ties into the transgender family locker room thing, is several suggestions of moving the family locker room between the other 2. Now there's some issues that we might have there, but separating the men's and women's with the family locker room was a comment that repeated several times. And then a couple of people mentioned, not very many mentioned, they were uncomfortable with the child center being so close to the front door. And that's all they said. However, in my opinion, looking at it, I don't think they recognize that you've got it right there where staff is able to supervise the in and out and everything else. So that was such a small number. I mean, you look at that comment, it's 0.3%. It's not a very large demographic that's said that. So probably one of those things that you just need to take that comment and think about, be sensitive to that concern. Question 10, based on what is being planned, how likely are you to have a membership? Interesting, this was almost 4 out of 5. So that was a good number. Do you have a membership somewhere else? Well, almost half and half do. But the next question I thought was interesting. So if you have a membership somewhere else, are you likely to switch to the Valley Center Rec Center? Almost 4 out of 5 said yes. And if I did my numbers right, that'd be 466 new members, Blake. So if they all stand behind what they just said.
Yeah.
So that's a good sign. You have that many that have memberships elsewhere, but would be willing to switch with the new facility.
That's right.
Maybe that reflected some of the things you had in the study. I can't remember, but it's a solid response. So then the last question was just general comments, and I've listed anything that came up more than twice. I did list a couple of them that I thought were legitimate that only came up twice in comments. Membership will impact their decision to use it was huge. I saw that repeated quite a bit. Hours of operation was a big question, not necessarily a statement, but a question is be able to have longer hours, more flexible hours or something.
Did we already post hours somewhere?
No.
Or is they referring
think
to
it was
hours
the
that you have
office.
going on right now?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
So a lot of the people, there's a
Well-
good number of them that have Y memberships, so they're kind of accustomed to different types of hours. And so I'm sure some of that feedback's coming from that.
Well, and if you remember if you remember when we had our final report from the first firm that we used in 2020, we did have kind of a tentative schedule. And so people
I do not
may
remember
have
that.
pulled from that or not. I'm not sure.
Okay.
And I
All right.
can't remember that. But I do remember having a detailed breakdown of when the pool is going to be used for lap pool versus school pool versus, membership. So yeah, I do remember that back in
That's
2020.
good, because there were comments relative to that. I
Mhm.
saw some about, having general exercise time at the pool and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So we had looked into that.
There was some comments that were like, great location. And there were almost the same number. It was like, you promised Lions Park. So it was almost 50-50 on those comments. Additional classes and activities, obviously this facility would give us that opportunity. So I think that was valid. Again, that whole issue with Park City, there was a number of comments about, is there going to be a discount or membership for USD patrons? That's something I'll let you wrestle with.
All our rec programs that we offer are going to be, if you're in USD 262, they're all a discounted rate. If you're outside of USD 262, it's a out of district fee. So you'll get that rate if you're within the school district.
Yeah, I think none of these, I'm not suggesting by these answers that you aren't doing it. It's just things that came up. There's several that there was almost as many concerned about the Meridian road traffic as some of them were concerned about the new gym, the private business in town that's opened a gym. And I don't know much about that, if your programs even will compete with them. Several times it surprised me because I obviously don't go to gym here. All that in the comment. And then there were a lot of smaller ones. Silver Sneakers came up several times. I assume that's a senior citizens program. And I'm sure you're aware. That came up several times. That told me there were senior citizens filling out a survey. So I think generally a lot of positive comments, a lot of good things for us to think about. There was probably a half dozen items in here that I put an asterisk beside and went down to these guys and says, okay, we don't need to talk about this. You just need to make sure it's in the design type of thing that were obvious things that we need to do.
Yeah.
So there were some really good reminders in there as well. But I think probably the biggest things we've tagged in here on the comments, probably those top 2 or 3 are probably ones we need to be thinking about a little bit as we move forward.
Oh.
Any questions, comments, reactions?
I have a question. So we talked about they're putting a roundabout by the up at Southwind. Is that right? Is there going to be a roundabout there?
And in the future, at some point, I mean, that's not going to be in the near future, but we do have a concept that the city has tried to apply for grant funds. But that entire section of road and stretch all the way to 93rd, is north of $11 million. And so, it's something that we kind of have a concept for.
Okay.
And we've been trying to apply for, federal funds, but but not something that's in the near future. Now, when we do move the location up there, I mean, we do have SEH looking at doing a right turn lane into the facility.
we talked
and
about
then,
that, yeah.
And then seeing how we
Okay.
can potentially expand the road a little bit to make a left turn too. But right now it'll just be, lined up straight across on the east side from Southwind. And of course with the pedestrian crosswalk.
Okay, because I think Meridian is already overloaded as it is. Sometimes you gotta.
Yes. Yes, there's a 15-minute window that's going to cost us a lot of money.
Yeah, it's interesting because each of those three questions where we allowed comments, there was about 200 comments in each one of them, give or take. And, I've summarized the bulk of them, but there's always those one or two. And I'll just give you an example. There was one comment in there that pertains specifically to the architects, and it was, make sure this thing has a character that's befitting Valley Center. Not sure exactly what that,
What does that mean?
how that all
What does
evolves,
that
but
mean?
I understand what
So
they're
you
saying.
had to put a
is don't make
Ferris
it look
wheel
like-
in
Don't
the
make it look like
building.
Is it-
Maze, don't make it look like Wichita, make it look like Valley Center. So I thought that was, there was a lot of people who didn't like all the gold. They're okay with the purple, but not as much gold. So I think as we go forward, we'll kind of focus on some of these things. We'll probably have more discussion with you, Blake and Brent and Neil and Corey about, is there anything we should do a little different? We're already looking at a couple of those that are very legitimate concerns and maybe some adjustments, arrangement, transgender issues big right now. So we're trying to address that as well. So
Any other comments before we move on to design development? So we're gonna,
Sun study?
yes, we'll get to that.
Okay, I didn't know if that was part of the design build. That's not the survey, I realize.
So the first thing we'll look at is the site, and in here a little bit. Lake Drive. What we did was we've had some conversations with SEH, and we've got the drive off of Meridian that'll come into a roundabout, a small roundabout on site. And then there'll be parking to the south of the building and parking to the west. You've already seen that before. We did determine with the sun study that the angle of the building is appropriate. We can work on that. And then I've also had him denote some handicap stalls to the northwest of the building and a bus drop off. Talked about maybe a bus drop off for kiddos that are coming during a swim meet. Might get dropped off there. We also need to probably incorporate access to the building and then how that also relates to the middle school and to the football field south of there. I think there's a little bit of that. Yes, there is. South. So you can see how it does marry up with that parking lot to the south. However, we probably need to have a discussion about how you might walk there to get there if you're parking. So also we need to do a current parking count on that. And as well, thinking about the structures to the east, how you might get to those, and structures to the north, how you might get to those. Right now, I think that road's just going to end and be picked up later with your development. So questions on that?
I do have a question, and I've kind of thrown it toward Neil a little bit, but my question would be is, I guess we're going to have a pond right there in the corner, a retention pond, but actually an actual pond, right?
I hope, yeah.
Okay. Is there a way we could put the pond right there switch that west parking lot and put it down with the other parking lot? So you have a straight parking lot and then have the pond right there at the entrance. As you turn off of Meridian, you'll see this pond that has a beautiful, 15, 20 foot fountain with a great landscape around it, right there at the entrance, to me, that would be a lot better than a parking lot. I mean, that's just from my aesthetic look at it. Plus, the heat from that parking lot is just going to add to that entrance, I think. So that's just my thought, being somewhat into landscaping and stuff. I'd further like to just to have all the parking lot in one location.
I can pass that on to the civil engineer. I don't know if he's taking water from south and dumping into this pond, or if it's all just coming from our little wedge
Yeah.
property there. So he may be dumping other water into that. However, I think that's a legitimate question. Sure, I think driving in and seeing a pond would be fantastic in front of them.
I mean, nicely landscaped, someone was talking about, well, you want it Valley Center, well, boom. That would be pretty spectacular, I think.
And
So-
many of our projects, and I'll just throw this out as one issue that you get, is if you flip those two, we love to walk in Kansas. We really love to walk, and we love to walk a little further. I'm kidding. That's going to be your biggest issue, is the bulk of the people won't like the fact that they've got to walk further. So we need to figure out a way to balance that issue with the pond aesthetic.
And the handicap stalls.
Well, you could still have the handicap
Yeah.
stalls there at the end of of that drive, but
What's the difference between the pond on the south and north, I guess, of the entrance? Because if you're coming from the south going north, I mean, that you're looking at the entrance of it to the northeast when you're driving north on Meridian, where majority of our traffic patterns flow.
I don't know what we would have on the corner.
That
Yeah.
is the pond on the corner.
Yeah, that's a pond on the
Right. That's
corner.
what I'm saying. But I mean, are you going to have some sort of, like trees or something along that corner? I don't know. To me, just the majority of the people are going to come in from the south.
South, yep. So they drive past the pond to go to the entrance.
Okay, but if you go to the entrance, as soon as you turn, there's the pond, there's the entrance of the building. I mean, the pond it would catch your eye. As soon as you turn the corner, the pond would catch your eye with the big fountain.
We can take a look at it. Yeah, I don't think there's a hard line on that way.
And it depends upon how the drainage, because I know with looking at the grading of the site, that plays a factor.
Sure.
Because of where the water and sewer are coming across Meridian from the west. I know that's a factor too, so.
One of the advantages of moving the parking, flipping the two would be that's more parking closer to the stadium.
Yep.
So there's pros and cons to both.
And that would also keep people from the ballparks or going to the football games, maybe messing with, the facility. I mean, that's a minor ticky-tacky point, but
I know one other small consideration that was made with this current layout with that northwest parking was in the future, if as outdoor aquatics could be added, that parking could also be expanded if you have an outdoor water park and you have people who are coming specifically for that and that future development that you can have on site. So that was an additional consideration that was made, that again, in the future you have outdoor water park, you got water slides, you got all that stuff up there to the north, and you've got a bigger parking lot that can continue to expand for those patrons that are going directly to those items in the summer.
Is that the square that we see at the top?
Yeah. So,
That's-
programs off the north side of the existing indoor aquatics.
well, if you're going to expand the parking lot, just make another new one
It
on the
can,
other side.
absolutely. And, yeah,
Split up all the concrete or all the asphalt.
definitely talk with SEH.
Okay, thank you for allowing me to,
Now I know who made that comment, because I remember that comment.
that was me, yes.
Well, I think one iteration that we looked at did have it on the north,
Yeah.
and I know we had moved it for a reason, but.
Anybody else before we move on?
Did want to, put one more comment out there that, just, it appeared that just comments on social media, those things, that we need to make sure we define exact location of it is kind of was hard to see on what we showed as far as the site layout of where the middle school was and where Meridian was. And so we are working with SCH and SJCF, just so the committee knows, on having a larger overview of exactly the location of where this is going, because some folks still did not understand where it was. So just wanted to let you all know that.
Some of them
too.
didn't know it was near the middle school.
Had no clue,
They didn't
yeah.
read the narration that had that in there, but.
But I tell you, so they're just going to click and go, click and go. Sorry.
Concerning the building, we have met with our pre-engineered metal building representative, met last Friday. And we are expecting his reaction to that meeting by this Friday. So hopefully he'll be sending us reactions to the meeting to you guys, but the structural reactions and sizes of members and all that stuff. So
all the loading information.
all the
that
loading information.
Our structural engineer record needs to design footings.
Right.
All the good stuff. Snow loads.
About that many pages.
Wind
of
loads,
calculation.
Wind
so
loads.
many different loads.
Snow
Yep.
loads. You know about snow loads. That's good.
I'd worry about that down here. I don't
That's-
know. And then also too, making sure, I'll speak up for Roger, making sure that it can handle solar panels, potentially in the future as well. So that's something that's important.
Or future ninja course.
Yep.
So moving on to the building, I know we've talked about laundry a couple of times. Oh, man. Laundry, I think we have two locations still that we could put laundry in. One is by the front entry checkout space or check-in space. And it would be right off the check-in, be right there with, be able to fold all the towels or whatnot. The other location is back over here by the gym. So probably need to nail that down before too long, which is like better.
It's a comment that came up in the last meeting. That
Also, we're working on the child center area and how you get into it, how you check into it, who gets to go in there. We're thinking that somebody might drop off the child at the check-in desk, and then that child might be buzzed into the child center and not the adult go in. However, that's something you need to work out. But we would have an access off the check-in area for staff directly, and then a door off to the hallway there. We also need to think about changing station and play areas and all that stuff. The office area pretty much stays the same. We did move this restroom to inside that area, so it was outside. I think the current layout gives a better view of the entry and who's coming and going. Also leaves our pinch point there so people can't really ask you. Studio we still have a couple walls here that are still solid, and we're thinking that this would be glass. And the survey that was taken, I don't want to be seen, or what we could put some frosting on those glasses, a design or something that maybe from standing position as you walk by, you can't see in there, but you can, see activity going on. So we can do some clever stuff with that. Also, we kept the viewing into the pool area from the studio. One thing that we added recently was a lifeguard office and a lifeguard. No, it's
Basically a rec room.
yeah, thank you. Someplace for lifeguards to go when they, get off duty or stuff. So that would be right off the pool. We added that to the family locker room, kind of moved this AV area and storage area from the studio down, so allowed the lifeguard area to be there, that office. We also turned one of the restrooms to be accessible off of this corridor with the transgender issues that are right now hot and heavy in news. This might be a solution for that. We do have options available. So That might be one, or maybe it's still accessed off the family locker room. That's still to be talked about. We have options for that. The fitness area, we're still working through all that. We've added some walls in here to have some mirrors on, and maybe those walls get a little bit thicker so we can add a drinking fountain, maybe the ends of those drinking fountains in here. Still have railings that run along the track that separate, that's a low railing, that separates this walkway here from the track.
And the comments in the survey was 3 lanes versus 2, so that yet. There were several comments that didn't realize there was a railing there that were talking about concerns running in that walkway. So I think handle that concern.
And how many laps to a mile? Sorry, I forget.
Yeah, it's 13. Yeah. We'll be running a while.
Miles a long way, though.
Into the gym, we do show 6 basketball goals, 2 for the main and then 2 for the 2 side courts. We show 4 pickleball courts. However, I think we need to make a decision as to whether you want pickleball or, do the bleachers go over the court if you have bleachers? The pickleball netting will be something that's portable. It's not hung from the ceiling or from the structure above. We are looking at maybe adding a volleyball net that's hung, as well as a net that might divide the space in half. Curtain. On to the pool. We're going to address the pool at the end of this. So I think Brian's got some really nice stuff to show you on that. So right now, just time out on the pool. I would like to go into I believe it's the sun study at this point. So any questions on the plan before I move forward?
Is there any trending on the bathrooms and being inclusive of everyone? Is there any trending that you're seeing in the industry that is a better solution for that, or?
In Derby's paper today, so I don't know.
Oh, I don't read Derby's paper, so I welcome you to tell me.
About the Derby Rec Center today and the Derby Reporter about their legal investigations into what they should and shouldn't do. We're trying really hard to make it to where we follow what is the current trend of legal understanding is what you can and can't do. And the reality is the best thing is if the operator and the staff do not get involved in that, but we provide the proper options for that to happen. So that's why we've done some of this changing around, have a family restroom so that there's options there. It's a challenging discussion, no question. I think the best course for most, from a liability standpoint for most communities, is to make sure the staff doesn't have to address it. The facility takes care of it.
Which is kind of my question.
Yeah, we're trying hard to follow the legal direction with that, yes.
Okay. How did you feel about the family locker room being in between, which was one of the suggestions? I'm not telling you I have a suggestion. I'm asking you for what your opinions are.
I don't know if it's that critical. The only thing I wondered is if we should move the doors that enter the 2 men's and women's locker rooms further away. That seemed to be what people were reacting to the most, is whether they're beside each other. If the doors were in the opposite corners, it'd be further apart than if the family restroom was between them. So I think that's something we can look at.
Okay.
There's some reasons we've got the family restroom where it is relative to those storage rooms, the lifeguard shared by the that space overlapping the studio, but
Utilizing those men's and locker rooms as storm safe space.
Oh, right.
Having those 2 paired close together and having that be the hardened area together. Obviously, there's structural implications. If we can keep that together, it works the best from that standpoint. And plumbing, that again, all the big gangs of showers and those kind of things can stay. Obviously, savings to be had. Efficiency. Additionally, one nice thing with the family locker room where it currently is, so typically, parent and kids are coming out and they're going over to that side, a little closer that direction. As we continue to develop that, those were some of the considerations that drove that. I tried it both ways.
Yeah.
It was in between them at one point, but with the structural system that we're using in Smoke, eventually it just started to make sense to put us together and to drive towards this layout. But things can change if we need them to change. but this is where it's shaken out to at this point. So
That's a great explanation. Thank you.
I got a question on the family locker room. On the side, are those changing rooms right there on that side next to the storage?
yes,
Okay, so where are the showers?
there's in that the restrooms there.
So there's one shower,
There
or
were
is it like a group of showers?
We actually talked about this today, that maybe there's some showers that are simply just open showers that, a lot of pools require you to shower off before you go in.
Mhm.
So you have your suit on already.
Yeah.
You shower and go straight into the pool.
Yeah,
We need to probably incorporate something that in here, into our plan.
because it looks
However-
like the other shower is for that restroom. Is that correct? Is
That's
that
correct. Yeah.
how that's, okay. So that's like a single restroom with a shower. And so then the other one would have multiple shower heads? Is that what, I'm assuming that's what we're talking about, right?
Men's and
Okay.
women's, there's a lot of showers.
Well, yeah, but I'm thinking if I've got kids, if I've got, let's
Right.
say I've got 3 kids, I need a shower to, get all 3 of them going. I don't want to take 10 minutes to shower each kid individually.
I think we need a spot where you step into, you shower, you go into the pool. That is not shown on this plan yet.
Probably something that we talked about it. Maybe there's a way to back it up to the lifeguard station. So it's right inside the doors where you're from the pool or going out.
Still designing.
Oh,
well,
that's fine,
those are
yeah.
important
That's a good
comments and something that came up this morning while we were talking about things actually. So it's a relevant comment. And as we, continue to evolve that space, I think it's important to understand that. I think that's an excellent comment and fairly easy to integrate.
And then I have another question. With the number of people who commented about using the child care center, is that a concern with the amount of space? Like, I really got the feeling that not a lot of people are going to use the child care center. I really,
Yeah, I think
is it just because
I
people
think
don't
it's-
understand it, or is it?
Yeah, I think once people understand what it is, I think after we had KRPA, which is the Kansas Park and Rec, and that was a question I asked, how important is childcare? And every rec commission that I talked to said it's very important. Like if you offer classes during the day and there's moms that have kids and they can't do that, it's like, where do you leave your kids? I think it gets utilized more than they think, because if they go even just to walk on the track, they can drop their kids off for 20 minutes and walk on the track. I think once it's there and available, I think more people are going to use it than we think.
Okay.
I talked to Derby just recently last week about it, and he said it is used very much so on a daily basis. It's not used all day. They're not open all day. They're open on those busy times in the evenings, Saturday mornings. And we did talk about it does take up a lot of space, but I think at the end of the day, if we didn't have it, it would be a hard to sell those memberships to parents that want to go work out and don't have anywhere to leave their kids. So
And can this serve as a, dual purpose of a lot of different, the teen center seemed to be a big thing, or an area for those, 5 to 12-year-olds. I mean, what's the age range? When I think of child center, I'm like, oh, like 5 and under. But what child center are you envisioning?
we're
from the
looking at
rec?
like that 1 to 8 age, 1 to 9 age. So, but
What are we going to do with those those
What are we gonna do? with those
preteens
teenagers?
that are just,
they can be in the pool, or they can be in the gym, or the weight room will have some restrictions, but even on the track or something like that. So if you're in the weight room, you'll have probably an adult or someone with you if you're that young, but there is other options than just being in there. So
But we maybe could look at just throwing a few TVs on wheels or something with the PlayStation or Xbox in
Yeah.
these spaces, in the child
Sure.
center.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got to be careful when you mixing ages.
Well, at
There's-
different times is what I'm
Oh,
saying.
okay.
You know, if there's,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there'll be maybe a give and take on that.
Okay.
Or even in the lobby, if we put, I mean, I know the North Y, in the lobby, they had a gaming area right when you walked in to the left there. That
They have a
kids
lot
could
bigger
play.
lobby though.
Uh,
They have a lot bigger lobby
Yeah.
though. I don't know where you're going to put
Yeah.
anything in that lobby.
there's
Yeah, because you'll get some kids coming over from after the school,
Well, yeah, they're going to come over and want to hang out.
But you
and-
probably won't have little kids yet until the more towards the evening hours when parents are wanting to getting home from work and wanting to work out. And all that.
Yeah, that what time does middle school get out? 2:30, 3?
45.
2:45 to that 5 o'clock window.
It's a 1 hour. Yeah, it's a 1
So
hour
we
window
could-
every day.
Figure out a way to,
a lot of them will
Utilize that
shoot in,
space.
shoot
Okay.
hoops
so
or
I just want to make sure there's
lots of
something for
Yeah.
the preteens, because I know they're going to come and they're going to want to
Yeah.
hang out, and
Yeah.
I don't want kids to get in trouble because they have nothing to do.
Yep, we'll look into that for
There
sure.
were several comments in the survey that the studio should become the game room and by the gym. So.
Well, I mean, we could, what would it cost?
Thinking about that.
What would it cost just to bump that little extra down right there at the end of the track and just create something right in there? I mean, just make that a full rectangle, and
825,000.
it would not.
Throwing it out there. All of 400,000.
I mean, it could
Probably the
possibly-
Lions Park splash pad, to be honest with you. Not Lion.
It could possibly give you an extra 2 rooms. I don't know, just if we're talking about, this is a permanent footprint, then, and we're talking about needing more space for studios and things like that. I mean, this is the time to consider that.
See, the problem that we have here, though, is that we're trying to do 2 buildings at once, and we don't have the funds. And so, with having an indoor pool, that's typically its own project in and itself. I mean, that's multi-million dollars of just the aquatic side, and we're trying to do a rec and aquatic. If we wanted to, pull back and do just a rec center or just an indoor pool, then we would maybe have funds to do more on each side. And so, that's a balancing act that we're having to try to figure out as a committee. And those are the tough decisions that, the general public doesn't see. That gym space with just those pickleball courts and that gym alone is, over $2.1 million, just that space. And so, it's hard to try to, you could try to move just one wall, but it adds so much more.
I understand that.
So
I
yeah,
just don't know how much more.
That's why the
What-
next phase, that's why there's future expansions all over this thing. On the north side, on the east side, on the south side, every single wall except for the west, but you couldn't do the west too, really, is expandable for the next phase and portion of the sales tax when the outdoor pool potentially moves up there.
Like, I would say our square footage this is our max. So whatever we want to do, this is what our max.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're trying to master plan so you can expand.
There's been a lot of discussion with us and McCowan and their metal building representative about ensuring that this building has the capability to be expanded in each of those directions, and that we have the eave heights and the openings and the bracing in the right places, so that, in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, whenever that is, you have the ability to easily add on to this, and you're not, oh, well, I wish that hadn't been in the way so that I can't add on because there's a brace in the way or there's a whatever. We've tried to pregame and master plan as well as we can to ensure that in the future you really easily can add on to this.
It was a great start.
Good point. Good question, though.
Yeah.
For sure.
We wanted to keep it, we wanted to add all of it.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
Really is.
They keep telling us no.
But I think it's good to, I think it's good to ask because you're also addressing questions that came in on the survey. And that's why I asked about inclusivity, because I feel like in due diligence to the 1,000 people almost that completed the survey, we should have these conversations.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you asked it because they said, can't there be more studios? Can't there be, and so those are the questions that should be asked now.
I think it'd be good for us to know you kind of plan is published so people understand this is a phased project and those things are planned. You just can't afford it all.
Great idea.
Here's what student.
Mhm. It'd be a good way to gain momentum in the community as well. And as the community grows, it would be good for us to be positioned to be able to say that plan is there, get behind it.
Yeah, we just need to get one out the door first.
Getting there.
So as you recall, we're going to move on into Sun Study now. Sorry, if we can still talk about the plan.
I really thought that Sun Study was an acronym for something. I didn't know it was literally,
Sun, no?
here comes the sun. So we're looking forward to it.
Of the
You
movement of
go.
The sun during the different. time periods, yeah. So we have on the west side of the building, which is southwest now, that edge of the pool is mostly glass, or we've shown it as mostly glass. We'd like to incorporate a product that's called CalWall, and there are similar products too, but CalWall is kind of the tip-top product there, and Jake's got a sample of it. But what CalWall is, it's a translucent product. It diffuses the light as it comes into the space, so it's no direct sunlight comes in. We're going to show you some images here from other projects. It's glare-free. It balances the daylight so that it's not harsh. It's thermal. And it's insulated. You can get it in 2 3/4 or 4 inches thick. You can get all kinds of U values or R values with that. So we can kind of schedule it as we need to. But
Different levels of light transmittance by how much fill you put in it.
it can also be colored. You can have a color attachment. So,
Gold.
Backlight coloring.
or backlight. I don't know if material.
Yeah, we'd use it on the stadium. If you've been over there at night, the southwest corner has it on the batting cage. We use LED lighting on the inside, so at night it goes from purple to green to all kinds of cool colors.
These are all pool environments we're showing you, so it does go well with pools. Doesn't get eaten by the chlorine or the chloramines or.
So this would be on just the pool area or the whole west side?
Well, we're thinking that from 0 to up to about 12 feet would be glass, and then from there up, maybe 11 feet, and there up would be the CalWall product.
So actually, this image is showing exactly that. So you can see that lower area is glass, and then above is this CalWall product, which would actually be a pretty similar situation to how we're intending to use it in your project. So you still have the views from inside the building and Meridian. You can see into the pool space, see all the activity going on in there. But above, you're still letting a lot of light in, but you're not letting glare in, which is, in a pool situation, you just don't want glare. That's the roughest piece.
Or gym.
And a gym as
You
well.
can use it in the gym, and now you don't have the issue of glare behind the basketball goal. You get kind of a really soft luminance. Neat thing is during the day, you get the protection of the sun penetrating, you still get the daylighting. At night, you get the reverse. You go by on Meridian and the thing just glows.
Those are a couple images, again, with different existing projects that have a CalWall product on them. Really nice diffused light.
Saves you a lot of energy costs too, because you can put this on a larger expanse, not have the glare, not have the heat gain, but have the natural light where you don't have to run lights for a lot of your circulation areas and stuff as well.
Oh, Speaking of which, we ran some sun studies and created some animations to show how far that light is penetrating into the building during different times of the year. So this is a winter sun study. So what we're seeing here throughout the day as the sun moves across the southern portion of the site, how the light is coming into the space. This is the winter, so this is the lowest the sun's going to be. This is when the sun's going to penetrate the furthest into the building. And in the winter, we generally don't mind sun coming into the building because it can be nice. You can get some heat, some warmth out of it. At the same time, you don't want a lot of glare. So if we start here in the morning, first maybe 2 frames of this may not be as accurate due to how the sun interacts with the surface. But you're going to get, so that's 9:30 in the morning. You've got some sun coming in down in that fitness space. A little bit of warmth in the morning as you're running by on the track, some sun in there. As the sun comes across, pretty good shadowing. And then what's exciting here, I know was the question, was we have all this west-facing glass, all this west-facing things on the building exposure. And what I had intended was that this overhang that we've created would provide shelter from that light and keep the sun from coming in too harshly. And I was very happy with how this turned out. So as we move through here into the evening, you can see the sun just starting to peek in right there at the end of the day. So that's about 3:30. We're getting a little bit that's just starting to show up into that kids area, which actually is probably pretty nice. Kids are standing up, they're playing in the sun. It's good. And then as we play out here to the end of the video here, that last piece there, as the sun comes across the water, that's about a 30-minute window right at sunset. And the kind of unfortunate reality is no matter how much overhang you have, if the sun is coming in horizontally, there's no way to prevent that. But what we have done is we've gotten it down to, again, about a 20-minute window at sunset where there's going to be some light that comes in, but it's a very short window that happens. And so this is the winter. This is the worst case scenario. This is the sun's coming in, but we're not necessarily unhappy with the sun at that time.
Are we taking into account trees that are up
No.
on the other side of Meridian? Because
No.
there's a ton of trees over there.
Which is also,
Will help.
this is a flat,
Okay.
a flat plane, so it doesn't even help as much with that.
Okay.
On the bottom right again, the blue button should be more.
Yeah, I
Right,
think we had maybe the same issue
There
earlier.
you go, right. You had
Okay.
there you go. Different times of the year.
All right, so this is the one we're all very concerned about. It's summer, correct? We don't want to overheat the building in the summer. We have all these nice windows on the southeast side of the building that face the into the fitness area. And I think as you saw when the sun came across there, the light never passes beyond the track into that fitness area. So there's not going to be untimely solar gain throughout the day that's going to bake that space. It doesn't penetrate very far into the building. And that overhang is doing extra work in the summer as the sun is higher and further to the north than it would be in the winter. You can see here as we pan across, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. In that last 30 minutes where it's actually the windows on the north side that start to let a little bit of light in across the pool, those windows now force northwest. So again, it's that last kind of 30 minutes where we have a little bit of light that'll come directly across the pool's surface. But that's from 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. Actually, it's 8 o'clock onward. So it's a pretty short window of about 30 minutes where the realities of having any west facing kind of show up. You're going to have 30 minutes of sun that comes in there and then sunset, no more light. So, but that overhang, as you saw, comes across there. You can see the shadow creeping towards the building, but it's doing a lot of work and it's keeping the sun out of the building, which again helps your mechanical loading. helps your patrons' happiness in general, that one, you're not getting excess thermal gain, and two, they're not getting glare in that space. So
And this shading model is without any added shading louvers of any kind. That's just the overhang.
there's potential to do more, but I think it's doing exactly what we'd hoped it would do already. And really, the sun's only getting into the building for about a 30, 45-minute window at the end of the day. It's not at the, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the summer. You're not having summer or a bunch of sun that's getting in when it's already 105 degrees outside, and you can enjoy the pool without baking. So, and with the sun already moved past, the fitness isn't actually getting any sun at that point. It's direct sunlight. So,
And does that take into account that type of glass, or is that just normal glass?
so that's taking into account that glass in the upper portions.
Okay.
Um,
So the glare is coming from the lower portion.
Yeah, that bottom 10 feet of glass that we have there. And, I think we have to balance that 30-minute window with the rest of the day where you can see in and out and see how activated that space is, and people, see and be seen at the rec.
One thing this doesn't, it's clear glass in this study, so we haven't done anything to the glass yet. It would be low E, and it could be tinted. So tinting would allow a lot more of that glare to be eliminated. So I think we could still do some stuff to the glass and not cause a lot of expense. Be low E anyway. That's pretty standard. I don't think we can do anything. Like codes today really require that. So, but this is assuming clear glass.
Tinting will help additionally reduce that window where we're going to have some light coming in. But we wanted to make sure we showed this to you. It was something that came up, and wanted to do our due diligence and make sure that we visually could show what we had intended to do was actually happening. And
Impressive.
again, our modeling capabilities with sun studies are pretty nice.
So that's the sun study. I think it worked out pretty well. We're going to go now into Brian and look at some options on the pool. So I know we kind of talked about that in the past and bring you up to date on that. Oh, sorry.
Okay, so here's kind of a bubble diagram of some of the features and some of the stuff we've been talking about with the pool. The interest of having some sort of play structure, something fun in that zero depth entry. We found a piece that will kind of fit there on the side that allows people to access it from the deck, slide in the water. It's got some splash features on the side of it. It just kind of shows you how it kind of fits into that space. So it allows people to kind of walk along the access on the side, enter to the pool if they want to bypass it. But it kind of shows that play area. Then you've got the diving board, the climbing wall, and the basketball. Those are some of the main features of this concept that we've talked about. There was some discussion about maybe reorientating the wading pool area in instead of coming in kind of from that south, actually coming from the west side. It would kind of broaden out shallow water a little bit. It wouldn't be as long of a transition. We wouldn't be able to fit that same structure we just showed there on the side because that's more of an access point. But there are other things that we could put in, like a water table, ground sprays, things like that. Not quite.
Yeah, I didn't mean to. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. So one question is, kind of for the group, which ways we're trying to add a little bit of space to the rec side of the pool. What kind of orientation looks good? Do you like the more narrow path, or do you like the more kind of wider access space? Kind of get your thoughts or any concerns either way on that.
Okay, show me the path again that you're talking about.
So if you go back to the original, how it's right now orientated, you can enter from kind of where right there. You can enter from that side if you'd like to, and kind of wrap yourself around into the pool, or you could use the stairs that are right there. This is kind of a little more narrow space, but there is a little bit more of a transition down into the water. While the other options, we changed the orientation. we have a little bit more of a wider space of more of a zero depth entry apron
Okay.
for people to play on, but you don't really access it from that way. You then really kind of force people to go use the stairs if they don't want to stay out of the splash elements.
This one you're entering off the left side, right?
Correct.
That's the shallow.
This just shows some kind of renderings of what this would look like if you keep it the same orientation. One of the concerns we saw, some questions are like, we need more space in the rec space. We need more of the activity for our kids to play on where it's, there's zero water. So we found some pictures from some other sites that kind of show this is an actually existing site that shows here's a play structure. Not my first choice on where to put one, but it shows you that's basically even maybe a little bit smaller than the space we're currently looking at for Valley Center. And it shows how it's being utilized at this location. You've got the play structure that's there in the middle. What's going to me personally kind of dominates that space a little bit to make it, it's all about the play structure. There's not really any space. I personally like the one where it's shifted over a little bit to the side that you still have a little bit of play area. And the next picture, you kind of see the background of, there's the pool, there's where people are going to do their other activities. And this is really just for kind of the toddler area for kids to play. You've got the little ground features of sprays to play with. So just something to think about as we talk about how we want it orientated, what's the best way, what's going to serve, your groups coming in that, the family's going to be most enjoyable. What's going to be the most enjoyable experience for them?
This layout actually closely reflects what we currently have shown in our project.
Oh, it's smaller.
Actually, yeah,
Just a
this
little-
is a little bit smaller.
Yeah, it's not quite as wide. It's not quite as long.
So,
And like I said, that's a huge structure. I mean, really that space is just for that structure. What we're looking at gives you a structure that doesn't completely dominate the space. You still have other things to do.
What's the advantage of the two spaces being connected? And I'll tell you where I'm going with this. If you have school-age children that are going to blast through that area, that are going to run through that area to get into the pool instead of going over and going into the pool, that's my question. Where you have small children over there, is there an advantage to have them separate? Or what is the advantage of having it connected?
There's some savings by having all the plumbing basically serving one pool that's kind of connected along it, as opposed to having two separate bodies of water. From a programming standpoint, it's just basically like one big pool that you go to, like on the outdoor, where you have the zero depth entry that goes into the wide area. We're just kind of making a sharper corner for the people to have to kind of break that spot off. We could separate the two if you really wanted to have a full on deck space between the two, but there would be a little increase in some of the cost.
These are not the questions that I came into this with answers to. You understand? So I'm just trying to get more information because I don't know how to answer this. But.
This is doubling as your ADA entrance.
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
with
there we
that,
go.
with the larger body of water, you have to add a ramp.
Gotcha.
basically the length of the pool, which is adding another lane.
Additionally, we've talked about the fact that this part of the pool wants to be warmer than the lap part of the pool.
Mhm.
And so you can put your heat in here and then let it kind of work its way back over to
Oh.
the other pool. And so there's some
Interesting.
efficiencies there as well.
but doubling as the ADA entrance is actually a really nice thing.
That's the big.
And it adds the ability that you're not just benefiting the kids, but additionally seniors and other people who use that side of the pool to help them get down into the main body of water a little bit easier. So
So in version 2, because you have the structure at A is maybe closer to is that the
This is all
entrance?
the entrance over here. This whole wall. So you walk in,
Right.
yeah.
But that's what I'm saying is that they could go down there
Yeah.
and go across rather than, my perception is on the first version with your structure A is along here, then it creates like a canal for people to run through. That's just my opinion.
this layout creates a little more area of that 2-foot deep water that's more square versus the other one that's a little bit longer area of that 2 foot. Different shapes.
So the real question is, would it be a benefit to have more shallow water in a wider space with less transition? Or does that matter? Do you like the look of something like this?
I'll speak from standpoint of just a father of a 3-year-old that, I mean, that 3-year-old is going to be going down that slide constantly. I mean, it's going to be, you know, I don't know how much interest that she'll have in that water table and then just playing with sprays, but she'd rather probably be in that, you know, that deeper water that's just deep enough for her to feel like she's swimming in the ocean, you know, rather than the shallow part. But that's just from my crazy
Concept
3-year-old.
that keeps a play structure, and there's probably the one that's going to be the one that's the more beneficial.
But not the one that predominantly, you know, takes that area. I mean, you know, I like the one that you had in this one design, or, you know, I think, you know, we discussed at 1.2, you know, maybe a smaller slide too of a frog, you know, head or whatever that maybe serves the same purpose. I don't know what that would look like in a space like you showing on the second one with that longer area. I don't know.
Father
what that would look
slide.
like. Yeah.
Space. Yep. That is an option to look at. You know, you have the water table with some splash there. You could add a little toddler slide kind of up the middle where kids, you know, access off the deck and they go right into the water. It's another feature that can be considered.
I don't mind like slides, but that's just to be, you know.
Yeah, no.
All kids like slides.
Oh, yeah.
They all like the slides.
Full splash features in front. And where you had the rendering those.
Yeah. But I think the larger that we can make this area, I think it was clear on the surveys, on the Facebook comment from Lions Park of removing that kiddie pool area that we do need to enhance this a little bit more.
So we have a thought. And it's a thought that just kind of got thrown together just a few hours ago.
We like that.
We're talking about sliding the mechanical space outside of the building.
Road out.
Actually creating a separate kind of lean-to where the mechanical space and some storage space can be put outside the building. That current mechanical space that we have dedicated, you know, for the pool could be kind of shrunk a little bit and still be available for storage. Maybe even it becomes part of that could be the lifeguard office if we have challenges, you know, putting it down there, you know, some stuff in that space. That gives us more deck space to play with. The pool can shift to the east. We can increase the kind of rec space area a little bit more, also give a little more deck space around because it was pretty tight where we're at, you know, for the swim meets and for, you know, your traffic. So that's kind of one thing that we've kind of been talking to Jake and seeing about getting some pricing on what that would look like if we could, you know, kind of reconfigure it a little bit.
So what you're talking about is not actually increasing the prefab structure, but kind of like we have on the gym side or the fitness area, a separate building that's off to the north in the lean-to.
Yes, a lean-to.
A lean-to.
Okay.
It's still all part of the same structure.
Right,
everything's
but not the same
it's
spans.
just- It's distinctly different from the building.
Wouldn't be as high a volume. Though. I mean, you have this piece here, and it would be a lower piece coming off.
Okay.
Would
I see what you're saying.
that cause any problems with it heating or in the wintertime, you know, temperature wise?
It would have, it would be a conditioned space.
Okay.
And it might have its own little unit that serves it, but depending on, mechanical hasn't seen this yet. It's a pretty new idea. But there's some really nice benefits to this that we can talk about as well. There's some potential to move some of the gym storage actually into that area, which allows us to make the gym
I like
more
that.
rectilinear again. So we gain usable gym space and usable deck space in the pool. The children's play area in the pool could potentially get a little bit wider, so we can add a little more of that space that it sounds like everybody's really excited about, adding to the children's pool side. I think that's, it's what you're going to see through the glass from Meridian.
Yep.
You want that to be exciting, fun space. And I think anything where we can add a little bit more there, a little bit more color, a little bit more action, and really provide that is exciting. And the fact that it works out really nicely, it actually helps the gyms in addition, and gets rid of some hallway circulation pieces, parts and things. It's just more efficient at the end of the day. It allows that high bay space to all be given to the gym and to the pool instead of to the mechanical room. So that's a really nice benefit there. And again, that mechanical room doesn't need a high ceiling, and the It also gives you easier exterior access to those mechanical pumps and all that kind of equipment. So there's,
My only thing, just because I come from the north, please don't put plumbing on the outside north wall.
no.
Wait, you know, I was looking here, I'm like, ooh, that toilet and those things, is that on the north, is that on the north wall?
Okay, so
I was like,
don't really look at like I said, since this plan was
That's all.
hatched literally like 4 hours
no,
ago.
no,
We
understand.
literally took the image that was currently there of how we were laying out the filters and we just slid it outside. If this is one thing we're going to develop, we're going to completely reconfigure how those go and how everything will fit into that space.
Those aren't
Reality
restrooms,
is
those are pump
pool
rooms.
Unlike your
But if they're
house, we
pump
don't
rooms,
put
they've got
the plumbing
piping.
in the wall.
Yeah, they won't
It's
be
in the
on that.
space.
Thank you.
Okay. So what does this do to the benches for seating?
Take some out. No, I'm just-
Yeah. So actually we have
That
this is where it actually,
Janet's
sorry.
gonna backhand me this
This
meeting.
is where
I
it would
feel it.
actually live.
in that picture.
Oh, okay, okay,
So it actually lives here,
okay.
which again, we can put the gym storage
Gotcha.
in this side of it over here, and the rest of it can be full
Okay.
mechanical
I love
space. And this big gray box gets a lot smaller,
Okay.
and it gives all that space back to the pool deck, and to the pool itself. It's a really efficient
Probably
and
gives you
clever.
From a building
your
standpoint.
zero entry part of the pool, probably is time and a half than what
Yeah.
it's showing now,
So
which I think is a
Great.
huge benefit.
where is storage for kickboards? Are you guys keeping the
It's gonna-
ropes in it all the time? Because the ropes are huge. They take up a lot of space.
We're assuming that the ropes are probably going to be in at all the time. There will be a real storage. So as that gets narrow, there's still going to be pool storage in this
Okay.
space.
This gray doesn't completely go away, but it gets much smaller, so it's strictly pool storage instead of pool storage and mechanical space. Shrinks a lot.
And Todd, from a building standpoint, I mean, from construction standpoint, I mean, is this going to, you know, by adding this little kind of bump out, I mean, could it be a big expense or is it?
No, what Blake said, you're trading high volume space for low volume space. As far as adding costs per square foot,
So what's
Well,
that
then-
funky gray box?
Well, then adding
Inside.
to what Janet had said earlier, then what's the difference in sliding and doing a less volume space off the track to the east?
Ooh.
I think they were, and Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys were planning on taking about.
Thank you.
So, yeah, part of this as
in the
well.
building.
Oh, now it comes
See,
out. Oh, there it is. There it is. Yep.
You gotta tee 'em up.
So it's essentially the trade-off is currently we have these little pieces here in the corner of the gym.
Mhm.
And they eat into that nice rectilinear gym that we have. So if we can move that mechanical systems and the gym storage outboard, and we can get rid of those two little spaces, we can actually shave a little bit off the east side of the gym. Square footage net for net, you don't lose square footage in the gym.
Okay.
But you gain rectilinear, nice open square footage that isn't interrupted by a little room in the corner. So
Okay.
you're trading a kind of funky shaped gym to a nice gym that's completely usable, that you don't have to have anything protruding into it. It's just a big open gym.
I like
And
that.
So you don't lose square footage overall. You can move that stuff outboard. Again, the gym storage doesn't need to go all the way to the top of the
You're
Nope.
trading high base space for low
for
space.
low
Okay.
space. So it's also additional mechanical load that gets taken away in that case. That's not needed. So
Very
it's,
cool. All
It's a
right.
really nice trade-off.
I
that,
love it.
I like it. Yeah.
I do.
A question from the public. Kyle. No, go ahead.
Like your size?
No. Or you mean something similar to Lions Park right now?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be that extravagant, but just something bigger than the kitty area.
It's our
Oh, kind of like what's
it's our
in
ninja
there
thing.
in that picture, that blue one that's
Yeah.
further
The way
over.
this one's laid out,
Yeah.
probably not. with-
They do have the climbing wall and the basketball goal though.
Yeah,
I
basically,
mean,
there's a climbing wall, there's basketball goal, and
Diving
Ninja-
boards.
You know, we are wanting to design this so we can add the Ninja Cross at some point in the not so distant future. That was a very high adrenaline, definitely geared more towards, you know, the older kids, young adults, you know, kind of level activity that would be exciting.
Okay, Blake, you are gonna have to make a class for that then,
Yeah.
because that's gonna
We'd like to do like Ninja Night. and be able
Ninja
to lower it
Warrior
down.
class.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that, man.
That's
Water,
something-
safe falling, don't break anything.
Could-
Yeah, I like it.
Well, and you can actually lower it to where it's almost, you know, in the water, you know,
Nice.
for younger kids. But no, that's
I'm getting
something
too
that we
old for
need
those
to have
falls.
something that is unique.
It's cool, yeah.
And
I
that's
like
Valley
that.
Center.
Well, that's what I was going to mention.
Okay.
So I was talking with the rep today from Ninja Cross, and I mean, he was just like super excited that someone in this area is looking at doing that because there's not another one anywhere near close at this time. And so the fact that this is a route that, you know, the city's looking for, you know, they're kind of pumped up. I mean, he already sent over proposals. He sent over all the documents needed, you know, to get ready. Like he's ready to roll.
What's the dollar? What's the dollar?
He even sent over a full-on proposal for, I want to finance for the next 5-6 years. He's ready to go.
What's the interest rate on it?
I'll send it to you.
Okay. So, you know, but those are items that, you know, once we get everything hammered down as far as the building goes, you know, then we can actually really start our fundraising effort, because I mean, we cannot forget that we did tell the public we're going to raise $2 million towards this project. And so that's still something that is
You brought your
absolutely
checkbook,
planned.
Right.
What's that?
You brought your checkbook, right?
Yeah.
2 million right there.
I'm a city administrator. And so, you know, that's something that, you know, once you kind of finalize all these things, then you can get into the real renderings and the walkthroughs and all those things and the Ninja Workhorse. So then you can help raise money to pay for all these things that we all want in the first phase.
I would say two things. First of all, the gym is a great idea, and that has bothered me since the first time you guys did it, but I'm not athletic, so, you know, whatever. But yeah, I think take those out. The second thing is you just answered another thing off the survey, because they said bring something that is the standard of Valley Center. So good job. Yeah.
Brent, you were happy to know we just hired someone that will, Cortez is rendering.
Good.
So we'll have talent.
Be the
there
first
to put
one.
a Really nice rendering together now that we're getting close to
That's good.
locking into where we can
Nice.
start working on that
Excellent.
fundraising.
We got to make sure we're a little spicy. So got to have a little flair in Valley Center.
We'll let you have your input.
I would just say that back to your question about the pool, I think if you can expand that space, I think that's great. I think my hesitation when I first asked you was that if you have a long, narrow space, that becomes a bottleneck of kids or other people walking through. So that was my only concern. I think if it's widened or if there's other ways to access the space, I think it's great.
I like your idea though of maybe having it off center, and a lot of cases there is kind of a backside, so. Successful pool.
We haven't talked about Lions Park yet, so I don't know if Count Gordon wants to give an update on Lions.
All right. Lions Park, has everybody driven by and seen progress yet? If not, we'll just do a quick update. We are doing the abrasive blasting on that. So they're a little bit over halfway done. And we just talked with Brian. We're going to do our inspection early next week. So if y'all remember, we were originally going to start work on this project Monday the 6th. We got a little bit of an early start and immediately ran into some complications with some air compressors and stuff not wanting to work that great in colder weather. So that's why we wanted to start early, just to kind of flush some of that stuff out. But, you know, overall, we are absolutely tracking on schedule. We're pleased with progress. We've had our pre-installation meetings with our concrete demolition contractor and our flat work contractor, electrical, and then mechanical is this Friday. So getting all of that pre-work done. And then we've got, as far as paperwork and submittals, product data, things like that, Gary and the team have been just really, really great about getting things turned around. And less than standard time. So thank you guys for that. That's been a huge help. We have Sunshade Structures scheduled to deliver at the end of March. So those, I think that was our concern, was a long lead time. And we did have one pop up, the light poles that at the time they were 5 weeks, went to order them, and they turned out to be something like that. So our electrical contractor proposed an alternate that they could get in about 6 weeks. So we got those approvals back today. They meet all the candles per feet, all of that stuff. There is a bit of additional cost, and we're going to utilize construction contingency because that's exactly what it's set aside for, is to guarantee that we get the project done for that guaranteed price. So when that is finalized, we'll of course share that. I think it was around $1,500. Not a huge cost by any means. And there was about $24,000 set aside for just. So as far as progress, we're really pleased. Micah, I think actions with Micah, superintendent on site. Just great guys, solid. Yeah, we're looking over the next 2 weeks here. Pull up my notes. But over the next 2 weeks, we'll be working on demoing concrete. We're at the cracks, reviewing with Brian here next week. We did notice some spalling on some of the joints. If you remember, there was a $5,000 allowance carried for additional crack repair. Once the paint got blasted away, we thought maybe there's going to be something else. So far, we have not seen any major cracks. There has been some spalling at the joints, and Brian's been working on a product that we could utilize as a patch instead of a full-blown cutout and replace. So trying to look at it and be conscious of the budget, and with knowing that we need to get at least 10 years out of this, but probably don't need to get 50 years out of it. So I appreciate you doing that. As far as other progress, it's just been kind of slow going, just listening to a sandblaster go for 8 hours a day. It's you have your hearing protection if you go visit. But does anybody have any specific questions?
Said you already ordered sunshades. What color did we go with?
It was
Nice. Pink
no, there
and yellow.
were
I like
multiple
it.
colors.
I like
Was there
it.
3 or 4 different
There were
colors.
3 colors that
Yeah.
were picked.
There was a red one with yellow poles for the party area next to the existing existing yellow shade structures. And then on the north side, it goes teal, yellow, or something like that with white poles.
That'll tie in nicely with the 2 yellow ones that we currently have.
Something like that.
And the slide and all that stuff. So.
So I did add the brick mob into the owner activities on the schedule. So just starting in early. That is in our updated schedule now. And everything that we touched on during our first owner, architect, and contractor meeting, we call them OAC meetings. That first one went pretty smooth, and there just wasn't a whole lot to go over when you only have one company on site doing work. But we'll be looking to ramp up, and you'll be seeing a lot more activity here over the next 2, 3, 4 weeks. Now, next thing on your agenda, the parking lot repairs. So we're working with SEH with Jake over there. And I believe he's going to get a drawing maybe next week. Is that kind of the timeline, Brent?
Yes. Yep. I know he's working on it as soon as he can, from the sketches that we've been working off of, just what we're looking at doing in Lions Park. Of course, that parking lot is really nice and narrow. And so widening the entrances on both sides,
Nice.
and then adding a sidewalk off of Allen Street, and then also doing an overlay on that. So moving a curb line. I'm going to use some of the street maintenance budget, since that's something that's been there for a few years. We can use the maintenance budget on that. So,
Nice. That'll be nice. That'll be super nice because curb check every time.
and there's no sidewalk that actually goes to the pool, which is strange.
Yeah.
So
From the south, there is.
yeah,
But not-
yeah, from the
but-
south, yeah,
but not-
but not from the actual north.
Yeah.
Where the sidewalk connects, along Allen and Clay and.
Now the kids
Or
will be
not
able
Clay,
to walk from the Sonic all the way down Allen Street, across the street there at Abilene, come all the way down and to the pool.
In the street from Sonic for about a skosh, because there's that tree, and then but anyways, close. We're getting there. So yep. Hopefully, yep. Parking lot. And appreciate Todd and everybody's effort on that. So
We've had 3 different trade partners come out and take a look at it, do a preliminary walk, and we'll get final pricing to you, Brent, when
Nice.
we've got a complete package put together on that.
Nice.
we're incorporating the same thing with the contractor, hopefully with concrete folks on doing the sidewalks for the ADA on pickleball courts and around that area, just like the fencing around the pickleball courts that the city is partnering on with the rec commission. So trying to save money everywhere we can by kind of pulling certain things out of the project, but then adding a slice of it, but not all of it. And doing some admin work ourselves. So, and Neil's crew is still installing the partitions in the bathrooms and new toilets. So those are fun.
I hit them up again today about pricing, because I was asked to do a material only price so that Neil and I hit them up again today.
Good.
So I'll send it to you as soon as I get it. Any other questions?
All right. Moving right along. Thank you. All right, moving on to item 7C, general discussion.
Okay, quick question.
Do I have anything else left?
After
Yes.
parking lot, we had potential pricing for new building and time frame for breaking ground.
Yep, we can move back to 7B.
Sorry.
Yeah, so our last price that we provided was January call. That was kind of conceptual based on previous cost. We'll get the design development drawings on February. That's when we'll start going out to subcontract. Sit down with you guys and understand what that budget is, and then through the design process, and then we'll
It was,
It kind of depends upon when we get when the grading package out. And we talked about, trying to get maybe that site grading packet out earlier, but then it kind of depends upon our final design and those things when it comes to utilities and SEH. So
I don't know that there's really much of a benefit from that. I know we were wanting to do one on the pre-engineered metal building just to get that.
we've also talked internally about, right now, we get updates. Equipment on switchgear, on things like that. And I can tell you right now that switchgear will drive the schedule. And so once we get the switchgear, the number of transformers, the size, what they're stepping down, how many amps, all that, we'd like to do that as an early package along with the pre-engineered. That would work is right now we have pardon me if I get the numbers wrong, but AIA 201, which is construction manager at risk. We have not guaranteed a price for the project yet, but essentially the first amendment, which is a 133, have some pricing attached to it, and that would be furnish and installation of the metal building and also the purchase of switchgear. That those two will drive the schedule. So that purchase of the switchgear done early, that should help everything open up. Otherwise, we would look at pushing the start date of the project back so that it's not just sitting there
We're back to the
waiting on
rec.
equipment to deliver. Because right now, switchgear is running about 52 weeks for a service
Thank
this
you,
size.
thank you.
Did do some research on this. We can buy your way to the front of the line, but you have to buy a 4,000 amp switchgear, and it carries a 200 premium on top. Right in Kansas City. I don't think we want to do that. I think that's probably off the table. That's excessively sized, but that is option.
It's just the speed they're being built, not necessarily the speed they're getting distributed.
A year and 4 weeks.
Okay.
But it's 3 times the service that we need, probably. In addition to whatever that costs, it's a $250,000.
But I mean, as far as though the lead time is because just the manufacturing, they're so backed up.
Right.
It's not necessarily they have a ton of them and they just can't get them shipped
We can
here.
get the can.
You can't get the
We can get the can. It's
material.
all the guts. It's the actual breakers, the bus bar, that stuff. We just can get the box in about 36 weeks,
okay.
which allows all the finishes to go in around it, but you're still not terminating your wire and turning power on. So
I mean, Neil and I mean, we could take a truck somewhere. I mean, we could take a boat somewhere. I mean, you'd be surprised about what we'll do to get this project moving. So
I think
Road trip.
I think everybody be willing to hop in and drive for a day, go get something. But
At this point.
and this is not unique to this project. This is every project, everywhere, every contractor every owner group is going through this right now. So these are just some of the solutions that we're doing is just, hey, we're going to order it early. And then once that's ordered, then when we bring an electrical contractor on board, then we transfer that purchase order over to them. Maybe that's more detailed than you wanted, but that's how we've been doing that on a number of projects right now to try and mitigate it. But so said all that to say this, it's looking like it's a late summer start right now. So what we've got plugged to get design finished, get it out to market, bid it, and then develop that. We spend some time making sure we've got an accurate scope with trades, and then presenting that and getting approval.
sounds good.
All right.
The sales tax will continue to be collected and we will try to shave off as much as we can from bonding. And, if you kind of look at that, type of situation, we're looking, more by the time we're done, doing a 10-year, permanent financing, because by the time we get everything going, that's kind of why we held up a little bit, was to get that seed money. So then we didn't have to all of a sudden go out and do a temp note for an unknown number. So things are going to be working out just perfectly when it comes to the financing side. Just need more funds. So shop local, shop often. Any more on that one?
Kind of brings me to something I want to discuss in item C.
Yep.
If we're
We're
at there.
moving to item C.
Okay.
Good. All right.
We're talking about financing and all this. I think at the very beginning, we were talking about a $10 to $12 million rec center when we voted on all this, right? And I am concerned that the public still kind of thinks we need to get a good PR program going with the whole aspect of where we're, what we're doing here, and just let people know that, it's a lot more expensive than what we originated, but look at what we're going to have when we're done. And I'm not a PR person, so I definitely don't know the ins and outs. But I think we need to do this at a very pivotal time to get everybody in the community on board with this whole concept. So
There's a number of them, and there were several comments. You probably saw it in the survey. People don't believe that the prices have actually gone up, which I'm like, wow. So part of the formula is the fact that not building more building, it's just gotten more expensive over the last 24 months. Move would be probably a positive thing.
and just get out all the bells and whistles and the local band, and let's have a big rally about, well, when we have the shovel to groundbreaking, let's make it pretty spectacular. And even to the point of having, an 8x12, sign of what it's going to look like or something right there off of Meridian.
Might be able to integrate that into a fundraising time.
Absolutely.
That's one of the things that's one of our favorite times actually is when we get that final rendering of go and actually do it. I like to put them on the corner wherever they're going to go so you can see. 4x8 sign, and it'll say come. Have a rendering of it and Valley Center and got that rendering, and they look nice, especially when you install them on the corner like that. Well, not only so you can see it, they don't blow over in the wind either that way. So,
More supportive.
but absolutely, that's always a good thing when you can put those in.
I mean, we just
And when
need
you
to-
remember, during the interviews stuff, the live cams and all that stuff that they'll have. So it will come, we need to figure out design and then figure out the price from the design. So,
I just
we're
want
taking the next steps,
I want the
forward.
public to be very much aware of that what we're doing, and we're not doing something, undermining the whole situation. Well, you said it was only going to be this. Well, this is what it is. We need to sell them why, it's going to be the way it is.
Yep.
So that's my concern that I'm kind of feeling. I've talked to several people that they are going, well, and I go, no, this is going to be pretty nice. And then we're asking for more money for a Ninja course, well, okay, it's going to be great. So I'm just a little concerned about that.
Good point.
Probably ought to do a step here. Hurt for us to go back out and use social media, same channels to kind of report back. This is things we've done to react to that.
Mhm.
Just keep it.
Yeah, I think that's
That'd be good.
important.
Anything else on 7C?
I will mention, along the lines of the pickleball court that's going in over there at Lions Park, since it's not really part of the project, but it's going to be affiliated with the project as it goes in. My staff has been working diligently this week, taking out the old fencing and piping that's around there, and that's been quite a chore. So that's mostly down now, and it's really kind of changed the looks of that corner over there, honestly. So, yeah, it's kind of neat to see. And then we're of course expecting the transition of the court. What is it? March, April? That's kind of what we're anticipating. temperature dependent. It's a
Yeah.
temperature dependent product. So
Is it going to be a lower fence?
there will be. There'll be
Okay.
like was it 4 foot is what we
4
expect?
foot
Yeah.
fence instead
And
of
it'll
the,
be,
was it 6 or 8 now?
Oh, that one thing was
Six.
taller.
I think it's 6.
They'll match the new pool fence too. So.
it'll
Is
be
it 1 quart or 2 quarts?
2.
Oh,
two,
okay.
just two.
That'll be good timing between that and Lions Park as we start to gear up for the rec center. I think there's a lot of PR that can happen there.
Anything else on general discussion from the public?
No comments, no
We
questions
almost
on
kept it within an hour.
I say,
Which hour?
glad I brewed a pot of coffee. All right, moving on to item number 8. If anybody is interested at 7:45.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Stewart, seconded by O'Donnell. All those in favor of adjourning at 7:45, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you, everybody.